Hey, everybody. Happy Wednesday / Mercury Day. Okay, so I'm about to give you all the best relationship advice ever. And I know that there's a lot of relationship advice out there in the world, and some of it is really good and some of it is straight garbage. But this one thing you can do, and I promise you, if you do this, you won't need to change anything about yourself other than what has happened to you in the past and how you perceive it. Okay. So we hear a lot of people talking about how you should date and how you should, call and pull back when they're pulling back and all of these things. And it's pretty good advice. Okay. If you are operating on the surface of things. When you are ready, though, to do that heavy lifting and that deep dive that has nothing to do with another person or has nothing to do with attracting someone, this is when you're going to understand that there's not a whole lot in the external world that you're going to need to shift and change about yourself. When you make these shifts and changes internally, you're going to naturally start to do things in a different way. You won't have to try as hard so much, okay? And you don't have to keep wondering whether or not you're making the right choice or the wrong choice. You're just going to be in the flow of things. So the best relationship advice that I could give anyone is to do your inner work. What does that mean? Take inventory of your emotions, understand how you have been in all of your past relationships. Only focus on how you contributed to the problems and the hardships in that relationship, because it takes two. It wasn't just the other person's fault, okay? It takes two to bring you to a boiling point, okay? You need fire and water. Something has to ignite that fire. Something has to keep the fire going, right? So it's not just one element or one component. It takes two, and there's a lot of variables to it. But one of the things that has really helped me pull back from all of the outside conversation that we hear from people on how to attract the perfect partner, how to be the perfect partner, and how to have harmony in your romantic partnerships, is taking a look at myself and being that person that I want to attract. I'm already that person for me. When I became the love of my life, I started realizing that the people that I used to attract, the men that I used to attract, right? All of a sudden, it didn't take me 2 months, 1 month, a year to realize, oh, this is not the right match for me. Now I am able to determine that and detect it probably within 2 conversations. Before we even meet, I'm already like, okay, this isn't going to work. And it's not because they don't live up to something, but it's an energetic thing that I'm tapped into. My psychic abilities have like triple increased, okay? My intuition is super duper sharp. And that is because of the inner clearing work that I have done. And I don't have to be or do anything more than who I am and what I am willing to be and give in the moment. I don't have to wear certain clothes. I don't have to make a certain amount of money. I don't have to be a certain weight and all of those things. That's just naturally coming together, okay? That naturally happens. Your inner beauty shines without a ton of makeup, without a bunch of weave. And that's okay if you do that, because I like weave, I like wigs, I like makeup, I like fashion, I like designer clothes, I like all of that stuff, okay? I'm a Taurus. All right. Well, the Sag rising, I like all of that stuff. All right. However, when I started healing myself, when I started working on my codependency issues, when I started realizing, oh, I do that sometimes. Oh, this is what I put up with sometimes. Oh, I can be a bitch in that area sometimes, right? When I started dissecting how I was in my past relationships, not even really paying attention too much to how the man was interacting with me and what they contributed, because I already know what they contributed. I already know what they were lacking and things like that, because that's usually the first thing we pay attention to, right? Is what the other person is doing. But when I started drawing awareness to how I was being in those situations and in those relationships, that is when I was able to say, oh, why do I do that? Oh, that's why I do that. Because that was modeled to me, or because something happened in an earlier part of my life and I needed to be that way to protect myself. Okay. So every person is going to have a different example of what that looks like for you, depending on your background, depending on your upbringing, your belief systems, everything. But ultimately, when you do that inner work, when you do that soul searching, and you become aware of yourself, you become aware of your habits, your programming, your beliefs. And when you determine for yourself whether or not certain things need to be adjusted and you make those adjustments, you're not really going to care too much whether or not you're in a relationship. You know what I mean? It's not going to be at the top of your list anymore. You're then going to get in a flow of just knowing that it's going to happen. You may occasionally daydream and see yourself in your ideal, perfectly matched, divine right partnership. And just having those moments where you're able to drift off and just be like, that's nice, and go right back to what you're doing. That is how you manifest the person that you're supposed to be with. Because now you're vibrating at a frequency where it's already done. And you're doing the inner work. So when it comes, you're prepared. It's just like cleansing your house, right? You clean your house when you are expecting guests to come over. You should be cleaning your house anyway, right? But you know how we do. We do that extra cleaning. We make sure everything is extra in its place, okay? Because we're expecting that guest to come over, or those house guests to come over, right? So this is what needs to happen. You clean up the internal, okay? You clean up the internal mess. You clear up that internal muck. You clear up those old ideas, especially all the bullshit that we see on social media of what's a good man and what's a good woman and why we can't come together, and men do this and women do this, and women, you need to do this, and men, you need to do that, right? We see a lot of that stuff floating around. It's entertaining. That's why people do it. Okay. And people will spout this stuff mainly because it's entertaining and they know that they're going to draw a large crowd. All right. I don't care about large crowds. I don't care about being an entertainer. I am here to help people get to the next level of their awakening and their ascension. And the only way you're going to do that is if you go in and do that work, and you need to sit with yourself and find out what has happened up until this very moment that has gotten me to this moment. Maybe I'm in a place that I want to be. Maybe I'm in a place that I don't want to be. Either way, how did I get here? Who have I been up to this very moment? Who have I been up until this moment in this particular relationship, or the last relationship, or the last 3 relationships? Who was I? What did I bring into that relationship with me that helped me manifest and curate the experiences that I had in that relationship? These are the questions that need to be asked. When you start clearing that up, what you're going to find is you're naturally going to fit into the new energy that you are vibrating in. You're not going to have to do a whole lot. Some people can walk down the street in the raggediest workout clothes and get heads turning, get all the attention, all the attention, all the attention. Some people can be dressed to the nines and nobody looks at them. Okay. This is because of where they're vibrating at. When your energy is very, very, and it works two ways. Okay. When you're vibrating at a higher frequency and you are clear, your heart is clear, your mind is clear, you feel like you're in the flow and everything is just rolling. You ain't really got to do too much. Everything is just rolling. Okay. Sometimes you're going to be in a space where you're just surrounded by like-minded people. And so all those people can see you now because they're also vibrating at that frequency. The other side of this is if you're vibrating really high and maybe you're in a part of town or in an environment where there's not that many people vibrating at that frequency, you may not get too many like-minded people noticing you. You may have like 2 or 3 people noticing you out of like a crowd of 50. Okay. The other side of this is that if you are surrounded by people who are vibrating at a lower frequency, and you are also vibrating at a lower frequency, guess what? They can see you. Okay. So you have to determine where you want to attract from. You attract at your vibrational level. Wherever you are, that's what you're attracting. I was talking to a client and they were talking about their ex, okay? And how when they met their ex, things were beautiful or whatever, and then things just started changing. The ex turned out to be very abusive and was doing some weird things. And the first thing I asked them was, can you go back to the time when you first met that person? And what was going on in your life? How are you feeling? Well, I wasn't really feeling my best. I had just gotten out of another broken relationship and my heart was still broken. I was still angry and kind of down in the dumps. And then this person came along and helped me and made me feel better. So they attracted that person at the level at which they were vibrating. And when they started raising their vibration up in the relationship, that person stayed there. And then they started clashing. Okay. And that person became angry and abusive because you're not at my level no more. Now you think you're better than me. Now you think you this and you think you that. It's like, no, I'm just raising my vibration. Okay. This is why it's so important for us to look at ourselves instead of blaming our ex, our partners. You got to look at where you are at. Where was I when I met this person? What has happened over the few months or the few years to where we're not seeing eye to eye anymore? What happened? Your vibration changed. Maybe theirs went up and you're still down here, or maybe yours went up and they're still down here. Either way, you're not on the same wavelength anymore. It's nobody's fault. It's just what happens when somebody decides to grow, when somebody decides to take that step forward or upward. That's all that happens. So when you're attracting a person or people, whatever your choice is, okay, the first thing you want to do is make sure that you are vibrationally clean. All right. Make sure that your hygiene is up to par so that you're attracting someone whose hygiene is also up to par. Their spiritual hygiene, their energetic hygiene, their vibrational hygiene. And you also want to make sure that that person has a plan in place to keep themselves hygienically clean in their vibration, okay? This is the true work. You can change all your outside elements all you want to. You can change your hair. You can make more money. You can move clear across the world. You can do all of those things on the outside. However, if you're still who you were 2 years ago, 2 months ago, expecting to have a different experience because you shifted a couple of things that you're saying, you talk to them a little bit differently, and maybe I'm dating 4 or 5 men, and so I won't get laser focused in on one man. If you think that that's going to change things, you're very, very mistaken. You're going to find yourself stuck in that same loop again. You're going to repeat that same situation until you make the internal change. Okay? This is the other thing. I do hear coaches tell women especially to date more than one man at a time. I love doing that too. I've always done that pretty much. Okay, so I'm not against that. However, everybody's not made for that. So my suggestion would be get in alignment with what you really want. Do you really want to date a bunch of people? Or are you wanting to attract somebody who is also interested in dating one at a time? Because you can have whatever you want. You are the curator and the creator of your life. So you can have whatever you want. You can have it how you want it. Okay? So you can call forth many vibrationally aligned, eligible suitors, or you can call forth one at a time. I would like to meet my next divine masculine or my next divine feminine, who I would like for us to get to know each other and see if it's going to work between us. If it doesn't work, you just call in another. There are 7.5 billion people on the planet. You're not missing out on anything if you decide to date one person at a time. You're not missing out on anything. You're not wasting your time. Now, if you want to date more than one, do that. That's your business. But why do you need to date more than one? Are you doing it out of fear because you don't want to have your attention and your focus on one person? Out of fear that they may disappoint you or break your heart or not be available when you need them, so you need to fall back and have another person there? What is that based in? Is that based in you having a good time and be like, oh, okay, I'll talk to you later. I'm gonna go have fun with this guy. Or is it based in, yeah, see, I always got to have a few on the side just in case one acting up? This is what I'm talking about. Go inside, ask yourself the right questions. You can take other people's advice, but make sure you always come back to the highest point of you, okay? The one who knows all things, the one who knows your truest heart's desire. It's okay to take people's advice with a grain of salt. Take what I'm saying today with a grain of salt. But what do you want? We had this conversation in my Breaking Chains class, Overcoming Codependency. And one of the participants said, I don't want to date a whole bunch of people. I just want to, date one person at a time. I said, then you manifest that. Manifest that. Dating multiple people is not for everybody. You can't give that blanket general information out like that. You have to deal with people where they're at. There was a time in my life when I enjoyed having 4 or 5 guys, right? I enjoyed that, but I also understand why I did it. I did it because I didn't want to be disappointed by the one that I liked the most. And in case he did disappoint me, I made sure I had a bunch of them lined up. That was to protect my heart because I was insecure. Because I needed to have somebody around. Now, on the flip side of that, now I can be all by myself and I'm totally fine. I have so much fun with myself. I love being with me. I am the love of my life. So if this person is busy and doesn't have time, I don't have to have, you know, 3 other men lined up waiting to take their place. If I choose to have 3 other men lined up, that's just because of what I want to do at that time. It's not because I'm insecure. It's not because I'm trying to protect my heart. It's not because I need to scatter my energy for fear of me being too invested in one place and my energy being focused on one person, because I don't need to do that anymore. That's a sign of codependency. And the surface way of dealing with your codependency is to just date multiple people so that you won't be hyper focused on one person. That's the surface way of dealing with it. That is a quick trick and tactic. Okay. But the internal true way of dealing with that is finding out why. Why do you laser focus on one person? Why do you get so butthurt when that one person can't be to you what you need them to be? Why can't you be it for yourself? When you go in and ask those real questions, that's when you're doing the real work. When you start to clear that energy out, that's when you're doing the real work. Okay? So I hope that this has been helpful for someone. All right. I have several programs that would be good for anybody out there that is still wondering, what the heck am I doing when it comes to attracting the life that I want? Okay. You all know that I do very, very deep cellular work. It is not surface work. I'm not going to give you a bunch of practical things to do. They'll be practical and easy for you to do, but it's going to be deep, deep cellular work that is going to help reprogram, reformat your belief systems, your behavior patterns, okay, automatically, so that you're not trying to remember, oh, I got to do this, I got to say this right, don't call him, don't call him, don't call her. Okay, let me not be too desperate. See, that all that does is bring extra anxiety into the fold, right? And then you're projecting your anxiety into the relationship, into the person, into your dating situations, right? We don't want to do that. We want to be in the flow. We just want to be in the flow. It don't matter if they call or not, child. I'm fine. I love me. I love being by my way, being by myself, doing fun things with my friends or whatever. We want to be in the flow. We don't want to be here like, okay, I got to remember, just breathe. Don't give too much. Don't say too much. That brings anxiety. Do that while working on the deeper level stuff. Okay? Hey, y'all. That's what we want to do. Not poo-pooing on anybody's info. I'm just saying, do those surface level things and do the work. So you don't have to worry about whether or not you're getting the surface level right. When you're in the flow, it's always right. When you're in the flow, yeah, you're like, whatever. When you're in the flow, you're like, you know what? This doesn't really resonate with me anymore. Thank you so much. It was so nice meeting you. I wish you well. That's what happens when you're in the flow. Okay? When you're not in the flow, well, what's going on? What is the problem? How come you're not calling me? How come we're not spending enough time with each other? That's what happens when you're not in the flow. Okay? And all that does is push what you want further and further and further and further away from you. Okay? Not being in the flow is, child, please, I'm just not going to call him for 3 days. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go over here and talk to this other dude. That's what I'm going to do and see how he like that. That's what not being in the flow is. Not being in the flow is, I'm not going to tell him too much. I ain't going to say too much. I'm going to just be quiet. I'm going to just hold back. That's what not being in the flow is. Because when you're in the flow, you follow what your higher guidance is leading you to do. It may not make sense to you or anybody else, but you're doing it, and you're doing it from a space of faith and not fear. You're not afraid of being taken advantage of. You're not afraid of being made a fool of, because now you're in flow and you know that you've done that inner work, so you can trust yourself. Okay, so that's what we're aiming for. All right, so I will put my link to how you can connect with me if you want to do a free consultation to find out the services that I provide, the one-on-one services that I provide that you might want to look into to help you graduate to that next higher level of being. You can click on that. But I hope y'all have a fabulous day for the rest of the day, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.